too tricky of a place, I hope. But we welcome Ms. Rincon and certainly Ms. Rasico. Talk a little bit about what NESDEC can do or might do, and why, as an SLT, we thought this really wasn't really a good use of time or resources.
You know, one of the questions I had when I heard that it was suggested that we do an audit, one of the big questions is, for what purpose? Because you never go into anything saying, we're just going to do something. You always say, why are we going to do this? What's the purpose? My second question, what do you want to know? You know, that's a big one for me. What do you want to know that I can't tell you? And third, what are you going to do with that information? So those are the three things that came to my mind. And so without any of those answers, I would have to say on SLT, I have great reservations, because especially not knowing if there's a cost involved, a significant cost involved. I can't see any of you on the school board saying, we're just going to do this without having good answers. So that was my first reaction on SLT. Obviously, as the special ed person on SLT, and Susan Rasico is Director of Student Services, we both had those same concerns. So that's where we're starting from. So then I'm thinking, well, what can I tell you that's public knowledge, or the things that we already do, that will allow you to kind of think, figure out if we do need this? Because I do trust you. You know, I want to give you the information you want and need. Okay, I certainly would never say, stay out, I've got control, and I'm not going to tell you anything. That's not the way I work. So I went to ask a few people, do a little bit of research about what is an audit, what do you get out of the audit, what's the purpose of it? And in speaking about NESDEC, I found out that they don't do these kind of audits. What they would do is they would have to create one. So they would come to me and say, what do you want to know? And I'd have to come up with all the answers, things I want to know, or the things you want to know. And they would design an audit. And then they would come in and they would talk to all the staff, they would visit all the programs, they would look at all the buildings, a disruptive process, obviously, and then they would come back and tell you and me probably 90% of what at least I already know, and what I could tell you right off the bat. So I did look, Mrs. Rasico was nice enough to give me some audits that had been done in Massachusetts, one in Needham and one in Beverly. So I just took a look at it and I said, okay, what are their recommendations? Develop cohesiveness in general education and special education instructional models. That's what we recommend. Well, I thought, we've been co-teaching at the middle school and high school for years, at least 8 or 9 years. When Chuck Coker was here and I was at the high school, we developed that co-teaching model. It's one of the models in the state. People come and ask me, you know, can we visit and duplicate what you do? Number 2, institute common district-wide response to intervention, a process with in the purpose of general education, you know, making that better. Well, we participated in the New Hampshire Response Grant, which I know you've heard about. That was 5 years ago. We've built a very impressive response to intervention model, which we still are fine-tuning, but it's a pretty good model. Pursue unified professional development curriculum designed for co-teaching, to better your co-teaching, differentiate instruction, and best practices to support all learners. We've been doing that for years. With Deb Armfield, too, has only strengthened that effort. Decrease, I like this one, decrease the need for out-of-district placements by vertically aligning the specialized program in the district. Consider increasing in-district capacity by developing new programs at the high school for students with more significant learning and emotional needs. I sit back and I think, okay, let's talk about our structure. We had something like, out of our whole population, I've told you before, about 2% of our special ed population is out of district, which is an outstanding number. Second of all, at the high school, we have great programs around intensive needs, around autism, and for students who are at risk. And we partner already with Adventure Lore. It's a cutting edge kind of program, the kind of program that a lot of people send their kids out of district to utilize. We could probably take kids in and charge tuition. It's that good of a program. So in the elementaries, I've talked about how we have the ASD district programs at Danville and Pollard, how we have intensive needs at Atkinson. Our structure, that they're telling, in this report, they're telling people you need to do something like that. Well, we do already. Reduce the identification rate of students in need of special education through improved early intervening programs. And I thought, wow, we're partnering with the Department of Education in a grant called SEE Change right now that is creating a model preschool program. We were chosen for that because of our excellence in staff, program, and reputation. They want to create a model at Timberlane, and we are well on our way. So I think, okay, do you want to pay $10,000 or $25,000 to have somebody come in and tell us these kinds of things? Is that what you want? So then I thought, well, what do we already know? So on the Department of Education website, you may or may not know that we get a report card, our district, and it's published. It's called the State Performance Plan, or SPP, we refer to it as. There are 14 indicators, and they're all around special education. So they talk about graduation rate. They talk about dropout rate. They talk about all your adequate yearly progress around reading, math, participation in those programs. They talk about suspension and expulsion. They talk about a lot about preschool. There are about 4 indicators all around preschool. They talk about the percentage of time that special ed students spend in regular ed classrooms as opposed to pulled out into small learning environments, specialized environments. They talk about parent involvement. They talk about, do we evaluate students in a timely way? And our secondary planning, which is transition. Mr. Strange alluded to it, the internships and preparing kids to have jobs or go to college when they get out of high school, and that's students with disabilities. I want you to know that out of 14 indicators, we either exceeded the state target or the state actual in 14 out of 14 indicators. Some of the indicators have 4 or 5 areas in them. So the one area that I found that we did not meet the state was for reading target for high school students. We scored 36% of people being proficient, our students with disabilities. And the state target is 38%. So we were off by 2%. Not the state target, the state actual was 38%. Just to put it in perspective, the state reading target, what they want us to be at, is 70%. So we're at 36. Everybody else in the state is 38. They want us to be 70. We are far away, along with everybody else. The math, we hit 7% math. The state target is 70, and the state actual is 28%. We were considerably below the state percent in math for students with disabilities. So, but what do I do with that information? We go back to the high school, and since this time, they've developed the algebra labs for kids not only with disabilities, but anyone struggling. So they've got an algebra course, and then they've got an algebra computer lab attached to it, so it's more like a block. The algebra lab allows them to do individual teaching at their own level, each child's level, and that has made a tremendous difference. So when we get information like this from the state, we try to go back and we try to refine and improve what we do. This is done every single year, this state performance plan. And I'm proud to say that Timberlane has always been very, very strong, very strong. If we were not strong, the Department of Education would come in and they would do focus monitoring on our programs. You wouldn't have to worry about me. They would come in and tell me I wasn't doing a good job. So, I go back to you folks and I say, what do you want to know? What can I tell you? And do you need to spend $10,000 or $25,000 to find out